Hey, girl bosses, and welcome to another episode of Pink Radio with Prestige. I am your girl, Nicole Dawes, and I am your host, but today I am super excited to bring to you a new segment with Pink Radio with Prestige, which is our weekly updates. It's just current affairs or current events that are happening in the world of business that can help the girl boss. So today's two features are going to be our boy JaRule, as well as our fabulous queen, Beyoncé. So let's just jump right into it. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about the fact that we want to make this podcast a little bit easier for girl bosses out there to find. So please feel free to give us that awesome 4 or 5-star rating and also comment and tell people why you love this podcast. Once again, this helps us have more visibility so that when people are looking for podcasts that look like Pink Radio with Prestige, they have the ability to access it now. So let's jump right into today's story. So last week, I started looking at some stories for this segment. So once again, I just want to find things that are happening that are relevant to everyday life, that are impacting the girl boss, or that can at least give us some parallels to look at so that we can apply these gems to our businesses as well. So in this particular case, we started with JaRule, and I found that your boy decided to start a tax company. This is the craziest thing ever. And the lesson here for the girl boss is that when you are in a space where you are creating a business, the manner in which you operate creates for the business a legacy. You don't realize it now because you're in the thick of it, right? You're doing the work, you're trying to make it successful, but the way in which you interact with people, the way in which you show up, the way in which you treat people, the way in which you create a culture for if you have employees. So if you create some, your organizational culture, those are things that are contributing to the legacy of your brand. So what ends up happening though is that we're so in the now that we aren't thinking about the future, and we're not thinking about who we have impacted along the way. We're not thinking about customers who may be frustrated with us. You're not thinking of any of that because you're just trying to make this thing work. So I want you to at least learn from JaRule in this particular story so that you can begin to understand why it's important for you to operate in excellence and to operate with integrity so that you can build business loyalty or brand loyalty with your tribe. Okay. And when you fail to set these things as priorities, then you are running the opportunity or running the risk of not being able to be successful and have longevity with your brand. So let's just jump into it. So JaRule and the tax company. The name of the tax company is Value Tax. So he posts, last week they reported that he had posted on Twitter that if you come into Value Tax, you get $100 right off the rip for going ahead and filing your taxes with Value Tax. For most people, this was weird, odd, and honestly, very poor judgment. So let's talk about why was that poor judgment? Well, when you think of JaRule in the late 90s, early 2000s, you think fun-loving pop/hip hop rapper who partnered with the likes of Irv Gotti and Ashanti. So he was somebody that was actually really, really well liked. But then, of course, his music trends tend to change. Well, so do artists, right? They come and they go. Some are staples throughout time, like really awesome greats. That's right, Mary J. Blige. Or, some are just kind of go by the wayside. So, and they find other lanes to really be great in. So, when I think of these actors, or not actors, but rappers who found really other great lanes to be in, I think of Ice-T. People who, know him from the 80s, okay, rapper. People who know him now, you think Law and Order. So SVU. So, and he's been successful for years in that lane in acting. When you think of even T.I., T.I. has definitely created a lane where now he's doing more towards acting. But he still holds a really healthy balance between music and acting. You think of Rihanna, she's focused on things like makeup, very successful in makeup and in fashion lane, where she has evolved and has done less music recently, and it's been focused more on those lanes, but those lanes have been successful. So it's natural for there to be this space where there's an evolution of the artist, right? And they go in different lanes. So for JaRule, we just kind of haven't seen him. He hasn't been as relevant. We haven't really seen music, or I don't know. I haven't seen something like an apparel line. And if there was an apparel line, I don't think it did really well. So with that, we see him again through this documentary of the Fire Festival. And I didn't realize how much of a part JaRule played in the Fire Festival until I watched the documentary. I watched both on Netflix and on Hulu. I share with you his background because I want you to understand that the reason why he got so much backlash when he announced that he was going to start this new company, this tax company, it's an accumulation of poor choices made as a businessman in the past that left a really bad taste in the mouths of popular opinion, if that makes sense. Okay. So Fire Festival, I will give you a really bulleted summary of Fire Festival. So people are duped out of money on all levels. If you were a supplier of services, you were duped out of money. If you were the island of Bahamas, duped out of money. If you were an investor, duped out of money. If you bought tickets to attend the event, duped out of money. So if you look at it, no matter where you go in the relationship of this particular brand, you were duped out of money. And if you are duped out of your funds, and we're not talking like I'm duped out of $40. I'm talking about you're duped out of $4,000. I'm talking you're duped out of $400,000. So when you're duped out of funds, and that's not actual cost, y'all, so don't quote me, that's like an estimation, because I'm talking about if you are an investor versus if you are someone who bought tickets, and the tickets were expensive because of this very luxe, kind of experience you're supposed to have. You were going to get a private jet to the island. You were going to be in a villa. So it was, you were going to get this curated meal from Steven Star restaurant. So, these are things that were all really, high priced, kind of experiential kind of event where literally people were paying to have this experience. And then if you look at it from the investor side, if you look at it from what the Bahamas thought they were going to be able to get from like tourist tax and all that stuff, and having this relationship where I think they wanted to have the event there like every year, it just was bad for all who were part of this particular deal. So from consumer, so that's B2C side, to business, which is B2B side, it was really already a relationship where trust was broken and the brand was tainted. So at this point, now you see that JaRule, he confesses in a very informal way that he was a decision maker in it. But you see it all in the documentary. You see it from behind the scenes. You see it that he was next to Billy McFarland, who was the CEO or founder of Fire Media. He was there the whole entire time, really seeing that he was part of this just really elaborate scheme to try to make really great money, but to pull something off where his business acumen was really, really lacking. And, the reason why I say his business acumen was lacking is because, the whole point or basis of business intelligence, or also dubbed as BI, is because of the fact that BI allows you to look at data and that will drive decisions that you make. So some of the data that was available to them were things like sleeping in a netted villa on, in that environment was not conducive to someone who is going to have a really luxe experience. because the pilot that they used actually tried it and they were like bitten up like crazy by mosquitoes and things of that nature. But Billy McFarland, JaRule were like, nope, we're not listening to you. Other business data that was given to them that would have allowed them to be able to utilize business intelligence were things like, if you can't plan a music festival of this magnitude in 6 months. It has to be at least, I think, like over a year. And they were like, nope, we can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. So there were a lot of things along the way. Integrity was also, or ethics was also questioned. So let's explain a little about why. So, for the investor side, investors were told that the assets of Fire Media were so much more than what they really were. The reason why investors care about this is because if this festival is a flop and does not make any money, investors still want to be able to recoup on their ROI, their return on investment. And so if they can't recoup from the actual event, then they want to be able to recoup from the assets that the company actually has. So in this case, it was all trumped up. Like Fire Media did not have the assets that they told certain investors that they had. And so this then also means that this company was okay in operating with, really low scruples or not having any integrity and not having an ethical or a moral compass in how they do business. All of this impacts how people want to work with you in the future. All of this impacts. So from a girl boss level, let's just say you have an online boutique and you take a really long time getting things out because of whatever the reason may be. Then that means that someone who is used to, let's say, Amazon Prime and getting something in 2 days, that means that they are going to feel like you are just holding on to their money and you're not going to give them their products. If there's no communication with your clients and letting them know as to what the holdup is. So maybe it's not that you have inventory in-house. Maybe you are purchasing inventory. So for me, if I don't purchase my planners and have them in-house, it takes about 2 weeks for the company to print and then send to the customer. So that needs to be explained to the customer. So at least the customer knows when to expect the product. If I do print on demand with Amazon, it takes about a week, where if you buy from Amazon directly, it only takes 2 days. What's the difference? The price point. So it'll cost me, I'll say about $18 less to do print on demand and have it sent, but where the customer can buy it straight from Amazon and I would just get a small commission, they could get it faster. So these are things where, if someone isn't informed of what is happening with their transaction, the money they're giving a business, then they will assume that you are operating in bad taste. But if you truly are operating in bad taste and you are taking people's money, no one's going to keep buying from you. You just always have to find a new sucker. You just do. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is that you will find that people don't always do their due diligence in trying to find out, like reviews and figuring out whether or not this person has a track record of being a really great person, at doing business, or is this company fraudulent? With Fire Festival, what they had on their side were two big things. They had influencers to endorse them like crazy, and they were influencers like Kylie Jenner. I mean, like people that were really well known. And they hired a social media company called F Jerry. That's right, F Jerry, the real the real curse word. Why can't I say the right word? Explicative. Listen, coffee has not set in. I'm so sorry, I can't say the right word, but you know what I mean. So yes, it's the real word, but I'm not going to say it. So F Jerry is a company that basically made their claim to fame by stealing people's memes and then having people follow their Instagram page filled with memes, but now they know how to actually create viral social media campaigns, and they actually now are a social media campaign company. Isn't that hilarious? So that's who they hired to do it. And I think that's who was partnered with Netflix, hence why the Netflix documentary and the Hulu documentary have two different lenses. One kind of like does it without including what ownership the social media company had in kind of using social media influence to really further support a fraudulent event, while the Hulu kind of shows how the social media company does have some ownership. But all that to say that this here, two documentaries, and seeing this happen and seeing them not own how fraudulent they were left a really bad taste in people's mouth, as you can imagine. I think for me, the biggest aha moment that I had that JaRule really did not understand the necessity to take ownership for what he was doing was wrong. And the fact that, and I was able to see how low his moral compass really was when he said, someone said, how are we going to communicate to people what we did with this really fraudulent event? And in that conference call, this fool says, no, not fraudulent. We just did not deliver on what we said we were going to deliver. I just want to raise my hand on that comment, sir. That there is the very definition of fraudulent. And yet he just couldn't see that. Or maybe he really is that far removed from being moral, I guess, that he decided that if he just said the definition instead of the word, then that meant that wasn't the word. Child, your guess is as good as mine. So with that, that really kind of stuck with me because I haven't seen the documentaries and I want to say maybe a year and a half. So the fact that sticks with me to today is like, So it brings me to today and this tax company. So can I just share with you my thoughts when I saw this tax company? I said to myself, well, if I can't trust you with my vacay dollars to be able to deliver on money that I'm giving you to just spend a couple of days of fun in the sun and hearing some good music, because remember, people who were responsible for for the production design never got paid. People who were responsible for setting up the soundstage never got paid. People actually lost money because they did the work, never got paid. Acts were not even paid, so they didn't even show up. People who went there were stuck and they were trapped where they chained the doors to the tiny airport, which was like a room, because they could not have all these people roaming around the island. So they had no water, they had no food. It looked like the Hunger Games. It was horrible. So when I think of that, it's like, if I can't trust you with that, like a 3-day or a 4-day vacation, why would I give you information that would have me susceptible to things like identity theft? Like, you want my social security number, my W-2s, my place of business, my address. You want my business EIN. Like, sir, no thank you. And what's even more interesting to me is that he can't even see that would scare people to death. You want me to give you $100, but what would I lose? And what's really crazy, even on top of that, is that everyone went to Twitter when he announced this. Everyone went to Twitter. They went to Twitter and they started showing the infamous pictures of the cheese sandwiches, saying, hey, this is what you get when you go, a free complimentary lunch when you go to get your taxes done at Value Tax. Because why? He's giving everyone $100 in real life if you get your taxes done there. People are not that hard up for $100, JaRule. And what's really sad for me is that as a business owner, if this was an opportunity that you really wanted to take advantage of, what you should have done is been a silent partner and had someone who was the face of the business who was not visibly connected to you, because you have too much bad business history. And so no one now trusts you. You do not operate with a moral compass. You do not operate your businesses ethically. So if there were a security breach within your business where all of this sensitive data lives, you would throw your hands up in the air and be like, well, that's not my fault. Or if you hired some sketchy people and you didn't do your due diligence to do a background check, then we would be responsible for like being our own advocates to making sure that our personal information is secure, because you would just spin it some way because you just would not see how you should be diligent, because all you're looking for is the payout, because you're not making it off your record. So you're just looking for the payout. And the payout is get Black people and brown people in the inner cities $100 and get their taxes done. Like, no, that's not what we're going to do. That's what we're not going to do. So girl boss, how does this relate to you? When you do not operate in excellence today, you are paving the road or painting. You are painting what your legacy is going to be in years to come. You have to operate in excellence. And if you have not operated in excellence in the past, because let me tell you, I will tell you about, was it 2 years ago? What year is this? Okay, maybe it was 3 years ago. Maybe even longer than that. I'll say maybe 4 years ago. I was in a bad predicament where I went on a cruise where I was supposed to speak on this woman empowerment cruise where there's supposed to be like 400 people in attendance. The person who put together the cruise was the biggest scammer of all. I trusted this person because of the fact that my cousin used to date her, and my cousin was like, oh, she's a boss, you're a boss, boom, 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 boom. So I trusted my cousin. Cousin, if you're listening, you know I'm shaking my head saying, But when I tell you this person was such a scammer, she took the people's money and she didn't even show up to the cruise. There were only 20 people who showed up. There were vendors who paid so much money to have their items flown into Miami just so they could have their items at an event to sell to the numbers of 400 women. 400 women. It was horrible. There was a silver lining. We met some really awesome women. There's some women who are members of the Prestige Society today who were part of that event. So we were still able to feed or to pour into women who came onto this event to be able to have this experience. But these women were duped. We were told there was going to be an all-white party on the beach of the Atlantis Resort. Negative. We were all white at the captain's dinner, but that's the dinner everyone has. It's not an exclusive event. She completely trumped up the charges so that people can go onto this trip, took their money and enjoyed her time because there was this other event that was happening in Miami. And you know how people knew? Because someone that she wronged actually got hold of the emails that were in PayPal and sent all this information and pictures, I guess, and stuff to the people who were in the email. So when that happened, all I kept thinking was, wow, this girl could never really have another event again. She could never really. And what's sad is, as I was sitting talking to someone else who was a vendor, she said to me, but this is what she always does. The difference was she did this in the Maryland area where she's from, but she didn't do it in the Jersey, like Northeast area, or in like there are people from Texas, people from all over. So when she took to social media, then she was able to have like more of a clean slate, because no one from that area who she had wronged before was following her on that social media, because you can block it. So now it's like, if I ever saw that woman again, if I ever saw anything that she was putting on, I promise you I would blast her. I think people wrote like blog posts blasting it. She no longer even has those social media accounts because she just couldn't. So the thing is that you cannot build upon any kind of success and longevity, because people now, they remember that stuff and they're posting it and they're sharing it and they're doing all kinds of stuff on this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. I think there were some people who even said they were going into lawsuits because it was so bad. So when you make poor decisions because you just want to get the bag and you aren't thinking about your tribe and you're not putting your tribe first, I'm telling you, it will follow you. It will follow you. And if it doesn't follow you, you have to do so much rework in creating a narrative of why you could not deliver. Why you couldn't deliver? Why you couldn't do what you said your company was going to do, and what makes it different today, and why you are going this route today, because people won't believe you. And let me tell you something. Today, if you have a reputable brand, it takes a lot of work to sell one thing. It used to be that you had to show up 7 different times in order for people to buy with you. But now that people's timelines are inundated with buy here, buy now, learn more, shop now, here's a sale, and all things that look very similar, your touch and your reach has to be more than 7 times, and it has to be over more of a time span than what it used to be. And that's if you're operating in excellence. But if you're operating in a space where you are not being honest, guess what, y'all? You gotta work double time, triple time, quadruple time, because people need to see that they can trust you. I know someone who was going to join the Prestige Society in 2015. Sat down with them for 2 hours. We were talking about it. Everything was great. So they were going to join in 2015, and they didn't. But they finally joined in 2020. This is from a brand that is reputable. Like, literally, she stayed in touch with the brand, watched the brand, everything. But it's like people want to know before they spend their money with you that you're going to be around for a while. They want to make sure that you're not fly by night. They want to make sure that you have longevity. So if what you're building is something that is based upon lies, unethical choices, bad decisions, poor operation decisions, because it's not based in business intelligence, guess what happens, y'all? You're not going to be as successful as you think. And there's some people out there that are very lucky who are able to align themselves with the right big names. People trust the big names. Then they buy into that experience. But if they realize that the experience is not of value, if they realize that the experience was not what they expected, that one-time success or that very short-lived success is going to be just that, short-lived, because you're not going to be able to sustain mess. You're not going to be able to sustain a lie. All right. So ladies, I encourage you to take this lesson from JaRule, who got in his feelings, got on Twitter and said, listen, y'all, I'm not doing the taxes. I bought a business that is going to prepare the taxes. So thank you for all of your media. You kept me relevant. No, boo. Let me tell you what just happened. What happened is that people know you're not doing it, but they also know that you don't operate in excellence and you don't operate with integrity. So therefore, they don't trust your little funky franchise. Okay? So you got to understand that whatever you're connected to, people are not going to buy into it. People are not going to support you. So I ask you to always put your tribe first. Think about when God gave you that idea, when God said, this is something you should do, when you prayed for discernment, when you prayed for direction, there is a group of people that he put into your path that you're supposed to help. Help them, and your blessings will follow. But focus on who you're helping first. Be a responsible steward over that, and trust the blessings will follow. All right. So that's it for our first story. Our second story is on my girl, Bae. That's right. Beyoncé. So everyone knows that she did an awesome collaboration with Adidas with her Ivy Park brand. One of the cool things about this, and I brought this to my members of Prestige last week in talking about the collaboration with Adidas and JaRule, just to kind of get their ideas. And what I love is there is a woman who is one of my members. She's actually a fashion teacher or educator for the technical high school in our area. And she really laid it out really well about why it was important for Beyoncé to do this particular collaboration. Because what I want to ask you guys, and I would love to see your comments, your thoughts, and your ideas in the comment section, is that, Ivy Park existed before. Now, she was in business with a man that was, what was his name? Sir Philip. Let me see if I could pull it up really quick. Who was she in business with? She was in business with Sir, of course I can't find it. Man. Oh, yes, I can. Sir Philip Green. So Parkwood Entertainment which is Beyonce's entertainment company, was the co-founder along with Sir Philip Green. And in 2018, Parkwood Entertainment acquired total ownership. So we started to see a few things happening with Ivy Park. So we saw that like stuff would always be on clearance or sale on ASOS. We really didn't see it like Ivy Park really flooding the timeline. And what I asked my members of Prestige is, because I'm always very careful about collaborations. So the first thing about the first collaboration was Sir Philip Green. He was a billionaire from what I believe. I don't think he was a millionaire. I think he was a billionaire. So he was this billionaire. So she probably saw that this was a really great opportunity for her to be able, and there's I'm sorry, I'm just looking. So she had so it wasn't just ASOS, but it was also, she had a former relationship with Topshop. So, and that's who she severed her ties with. But when she got into this partnership with Sir Philip Green, she had to sever ties with him and buy him out because of all the allegations and things that were happening with sexual harassment and I think racial abuse. So, and I don't even know what racial abuse is. Like, what was he doing for there to have been racial abuse? So she bought him out. And now I'm thinking to myself, your Bayhive is so crazy. Like, people love you, Beyonce. Why did a collaboration with Adidas need to happen? Why is it that Ivy Park could not have been something that was a standalone, that she could just like stand up and be able to acquire or at least take home all of the sales instead of there being some kind of 50-50 or 40-60 or whatever the deal, maybe with 30-70. I don't know what it was, but just why the collaboration with Adidas? Because once again, when she was going through the retailer of Topshop, and when she was a co-founder with Sir Philip Green, those were things that kind of like bit her in the butt. And when you do collaborations, you have to make sure that you do your due diligence and you are really understanding what it is. But let me tell you about my girl Beyonce, though. The one thing I can say is that you do have to do your due diligence, but Beyonce does a really great job at making business decisions that on the surface seem questionable, but under the surface are really freaking intelligent, like out of this world smart. I'll give you a perfect example. When she did Coachella, and then Ariana Grande did Coachella, everyone made sure that they hit on Twitter how it was absolutely crazy how Beyonce got X amount of dollars in comparison to Ariana Grande. And I'm sure it was being made into a racial problem or issue. But then people started to then take to Twitter on Beyonce's defense and letting people know that the reason why the upfront amount was lower, it was because she wanted to have all rights to the Netflix production, and that what she was to gain with the Netflix deal would have been way more than any dollar amount that Coachella would have been able to offer her, and was way more than what Ariana Grande received as a performer. So in the end, Beyonce actually made out more. So when you look at it on the surface, just looking at Coachella's offer, just the dollar amount to perform and the dollar amount to perform with Ariana Grande, you look at it, it's like, oh man, Beyonce got the short end of the stick. But when you're able to do some research on it, you realize, oh no, homegirl made a smart decision. So this is not a story to place judgment or to question, her choice. It's just a question for girl bosses altogether to say, could she have made it on her own? Was the collaboration with Adidas necessary? And if so, what do you think are some of the benefits? Because everyone jumps into, because Adidas is this longstanding hip hop brand, everyone jumps into what Beyonce stood to gain by joining Adidas. But what's interesting to me is that the narratives that I've been seeing in the headlines have been what Adidas hope to gain by collaborating with Beyoncé. So what they hoped to gain was growth in like hip hop market. Well, if I could recall, a lot of people are saying, well, that's why Beyoncé went to Adidas. So like if y'all are both looking for the same thing, normally when you go into a partnership, it's because one person has X amount of assets or benefits to what they're bringing to the table, and the other person has Y. And so therefore it makes sense because together it then completes the whole picture. But I'm going to tell you the most aha moment that I've had was from the comment that this member brought up. Her name is Tanya Respis, and what she said, because my girl's in fashion and that's what she teaches, but what she said made ultimate sense from a girl boss perspective, and I want to share this with you. So she said, well, if we look at it from this standpoint, Adidas can really offer an awesome back end to the operation so that Beyoncé can really stay focused on being Bey, all things Bey, right? So Bey the artist, while Adidas operates the thing that they do well with, which is the back end of the office piece of it, right? So sales, manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, retailing. So all those things that Adidas already does on a day-to-day basis, that's not Beyonce's magic. That's not where she is. That's probably not even her passion nor her concern. Her concern is on all things on the artistry side. So if she can focus on the artist Beyoncé and focus on the things that she loves that fall into that vein of being an artist, then what the relationship now provides is now all of the back office piece of it that allows her not to get caught up in that piece that probably doesn't light a fire in her belly at all. So I said, you know what? To me, that makes the most sense. That makes the most sense. Not that, Beyoncé wants to be able to have more of a reach, because at the end of the day, Beyoncé has a reach that's out of this world. It's crazy. If you don't believe me, I want you to Twitter or tweet one bad thing about Beyoncé on Twitter. So go ahead, tweet one bad thing about Beyoncé, and I want you to wait probably 15 minutes and see how many people will come for your behind because you said something about Queen Bee. Okay, so she already has a following that's out of this world where if she posted one thing to purchase, I'm sure people would just buy. But there was something missing prior to Ivy Park. I don't know what it was. There was definitely something missing, because as much as I love me some Beyonce, Ivy Park was not flooding anything. Like, Fashion Nova floods my whole life, and I want them to stop it. They flood my text messages. And I get it. I'm talking about a line of clothing versus an actual retailer. But I'm just saying, marketing is marketing is marketing, okay? So Fashion Nova gives me notifications, push notifications out of this world on my phone. So I wasn't seeing anything of that nature really flooding my timeline. I wasn't seeing anything around Ivy Park flooding my timeline on social media like Instagram or on Facebook or anything. But this little thing with Adidas, which is really a big thing, not only flooded my timeline, but also she sold out. Homegirl sold out. People were waiting online. So something had to have been magic. Something was right about this particular collaboration. So I ask you, as I close out, girl bosses, what do you think about JaRule trying to have a business comeback by his value tax company? And what are your thoughts around, how, because let's talk about it. Some people do fall from grace, no pun intended, because I'm sure everybody saw the Netflix movie, but some people do fall from grace. And, if we are going to have a Christian heart, and really say that we should forgive those, then my thing is, how can girl bosses who have fallen from grace come back? What can they do? Because as you can see from the JaRule fallout, it's really hard. And also, I would love to see your comments and your ideas around this collaboration with Beyoncé and Adidas. So listen, guys, thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys were able to at least take some gems from this. I'm going to be digging through the headlines to see what else is going on this week. Have a wonderful, awesome, and most of all, fabulous day. Bye.